Hi, my name's Katie Jane Swallow. Since the 4th of September, when I found my courage to do a video with the lovely Roland Ford, speaking out loud about my story on forced adoption and what's happened to me, I've been receiving messages from lovely people who've either dealt with the system or people who didn't even know what was going on in the system. And one thing I've personally noticed is that people have been unable to share their stories due to threats from social services. So I've put together a way for people to share their stories as safely as I can possibly make it. This is their story. I'm only here to listen and to find out what was going through their mind and how they were feeling when certain parts were happening in their story. In this interview, no real names are going to be mentioned, no places will be shared, and the parent will not be showing any faces. So there will be no real names, no places, and no faces of anyone involved to protect their identity, and I'll be sharing this video on their behalf. So, without further ado, let's begin. Hello, secret parent. Before we start, I need you to confirm that you give me permission to share your story as safely as possible on your behalf.
Yes.
Can I also confirm that we have previously gone over safety measures put in place to protect yours and your family's identity?
Yes, you have.
Can you confirm that you have been given the option for someone to speak for you on your behalf?
Yes.
As previously discussed, if you need to take a break at any point, you'll let me know and we will stop the recording and continue when you are ready.
Okay. Yep, that's fine.
If you say something you do not wish to be recorded, we will stop the recording and start again.
Okay.
Do you agree to watch the recording after we finish before agreeing for it to be posted?
Yes, I do.
Do you have any questions before we start?
Not that I can think of. No, not at the moment.
If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask.
Okay.
So let's start with how social services introduce themselves into your lives.
Well, I would have been 17, going on to 18 weeks pregnant, and I was currently living in a flat in supported housing, and I had a phone call from the office asking me to come down and saying someone's here to see you. They couldn't tell me over the phone. I don't know why. So I went down and a guy called, I don't want to say name for purposes, but a gentleman from social services introduced himself and said he's from such and such social services.
Yeah.
And basically we've had a referral of concern, basically.
So when you got this phone call and when obviously you got told that there was someone there to see you, what was the first thing that went through your mind?
I actually just thought maybe it was my friend and who I haven't seen in a long time because I just moved back to where I was. So I thought maybe it was just a friend and they told him not to tell me. So it was a surprise when I walked into the office because the office wasn't in the same block to where I live. So I had to walk out and then walk into the front office. And I just thought maybe it was a friend or something who wanted to surprise me. That's why they wasn't allowed to tell me who it was.
Yeah. I'm sorry, my dog's decided that she wants my attention now. Move, please. Sorry. So obviously when you went down and you did meet and the social worker introduced him or herself to you, did you panic?
Yes. I was, in a polite way, I was pooping myself. Because I thought and then the thoughts from my head thinking, what have I done to get a referral? Who is this referral came from? And was it one of my friends? But at the same time, my friends wouldn't do that to me. I did in the end find out where the referral was from. I don't know if they were allowed to tell me that, but they did anyway.
Okay.
And basically we went into like an area where for guests and stuff like that. And then he sat down for me, asked questions. How's my pregnancy going? Am I going to be able to cope? Do you think I'm going to be able to cope when the baby's here? Basically asking me about my baby father and stuff like that, basically.
So was it your first child? Were you a new mum?
Yes.
Yes, so basically the report came out of nowhere then, because you've never had really any social worker involvement before that. So what was the next step? What happened next after the initial meeting?
It was just kept going on for meetings and meetings after that, and then I would have been, well, I just gave birth, sorry, and the person who lived opposite me was a drug dealer, and I brought up from the moment they come in, by the way, I don't mean to be grassing on people, but I'm concerned because the people who lives opposite me, it was a number of flats, so I didn't say who, because I didn't want to grass people in, but I said I don't want to come back here with my baby, basically, because the smell of cannabis goes into my property sometimes.
Yeah, so you're putting your child's safety first, really.
Yes. And then I was in hospital, and I've been here for 8 days, and they had a safeguarding meeting or something like that.
The recording's just started again now. Okay. So, you were saying about wanting to move from where you are now. Do you want to continue from there?
Yes.
Obviously not where you are now, so where you were then, sorry.
Yeah, where I was at the time, wasn't appropriate because the smell of cannabis kept going into my property. And I was actually, the place where I was living at was in the process of putting me onto a bidding system. And I asked the social worker at the time a number of times, look, maybe you've got some power and maybe council can help me move faster. They was like, oh no, unfortunately we can't do this and that, blah, blah, blah. I was like, right, okay, that's fair enough. Yeah. And then I gave birth to my daughter. And at the time she would have been 8 days old. And we had to have a safeguarding meeting. Yeah. And basically they had nowhere to go, and basically luckily I put a very, very close friend of mine who's very respected, and she's a lot older than me, and she wasn't in the meeting. They said in the meeting, if we don't find anywhere, or if you don't find anywhere to go, basically your child's going to be taken off you from the hospital. They almost made like the concerns I was bringing up almost like there was the ones that brought it up initially when they wasn't. I've been bringing up these concerns since probably about 20 weeks. And my very close friend who's in the basically said, well, her and her daughter can come and live with me till they basically find somewhere, or you find them somewhere to go. And they said, yeah, that's fine, we just need to do CBR checks. And they've done the CBR checks within 24 hours. And everything was the go-ahead. And even, I was there for about 3 months, and even the property I went into wasn't even arranged by social services. It was arranged by my support worker. And they also held that against me in court as well. So, yeah.
It's horrible what they're doing, and the fact that they've taken your concerns and used them against you. When, I mean, that must have been horrible. You must have felt trapped. I mean, what was going on? How were you feeling during that?
Because I never had dealt with social services from that side, I felt a bit like, whoa, what the hell do you think you're doing? I was bringing these up for months on end, and you're now bringing up almost like I never brought them up. Making me out like I don't care about my daughter.
Did you feel trapped by them, like you had no way out?
I felt trapped in the existence, like, basically them saying if I don't find anywhere to go, that my daughter's going to get taken off me, when I haven't even, when in the hospital, I proved myself time and time again. Even the people, because I know obviously in the hospital, you have little times where they show little, like, shows where they show you how to bath a baby and stuff like that. Even she said to me, I'm impressed that you already know how to do this. It's like, I already know how to do it. I already know how to make a bowl. I already know how to change a nappy, how to dress a baby, how to bath a baby, not to bath a baby every day, to top and tail, blah. Do you know what I mean? All that already. I already knew it all. So
what was the next step? What was the next step? Did he take you to court? I mean, how did they come about to the actual removal?
Then when I moved into the new place from my very close friend, she didn't want to get rid of me. She wanted me with my daughter on my own, so we could have so I can get into a routine without them being there, because they always wanted to help, even when I didn't ask for it. They wanted, because we're very special to them. We still are to this day. And she wanted me and my daughter to have our own space, basically. And they said, "Oh, if we give you money, can they stay there?" It's just like, it's nothing to do with money. Sarah, we need our own space, and so does she. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. She needs her own space. She needs to learn to be her own mother. Do you know what I mean?
Which is what any family needs. Any family needs their own home, their family home, really. Yeah. So I completely agree with you, 100%.
But they just kept offering her money, basically, to keep me there. And I was like, the money's not the problem. Money's not a problem at all. It's just, we want her to be on her own with her little one. They need some mummy and daughter time. Which
it sounds like they were trying to trap you, in the sense of making sure you were staying there so that they could turn around and say that you had nowhere to go and you had to stay there, so that they were doing it to help you. Sounds like they were trying to play the saviour, if you understand what I mean.
Yeah, maybe so when they did take my daughter, they could then turn around and say, well, she's never really been on her own. She's always had people there, so we don't know if ever she'd be able to cope with this child on her own. And I was with my daughter. She got taken around November time. So I was with her for a good 5 months on her own.
So you looked after her for a good part of a newbornhood, well, an entire newbornhood, really.
Yes. And then the place I moved into, I wouldn't call it a mother and baby unit, because the staff wasn't there 24/7. They were only there during the day. And I know with mother and baby unit, staff have to be there 24/7. It was more just a supported housing specifically for mothers, basically. That's what I would call it. And all the mothers there, we were all friends. Everyone was lovely. If we wanted a shower or anything, and we didn't want and then just in case our baby would wake up, stuff like that, we would knock on the door. I was like, "Oh, do you mind watching such and such while I go have a shower?" I was like, "Yeah, sure, that's fine, darling." Blah blah blah. Do you know what I mean? Just put her in a Moses basket there and bring her down. That's the type of place it was. If we needed a break, they would like, "Oh, just go have half hour on your own. You're a mother. You need it." Do you know what I mean? Every mother needs a break.
Yeah. With social services, I know where they give you an option to put family members for you to look after your child if you can't for whatever reason. What happened in your situation? Did you put people forward? Did social services even take them on board?
I put 2 people forward. One couldn't, simply because of their age, and the other one, I don't know why. It was a family member, but she just decided not to in the end. I don't know what changed her mind, but she rang me up going, "I can't do this, sorry."
You had a support network, though, I'm guessing, with family.
Yes, I did.
You mentioned the sibling to me, so obviously the family support network's there.
Yes, I had my own family, and I had, which I would call them they used to foster me, basically. And they supported me and my daughter through everything, and they still support me to this day. And the foster daughter, which was their daughter, well, I call her my sister now, so she's my sister, and I look after her and see her like a sister. And then I had so much support from friends. I had friends writing letters to take into court to give the judge to say that if Sarah ever needed anything, because even though they knew I'm not going to be getting stressed all the time, but they said if she ever needed it, I would drive down and take her child out for the day and stuff like that. And I would always be there on the phone and stuff. And all my friends saying that and saying that where every time I've seen her with a daughter, she's always met to her needs, always knew what meant this and stuff like that.
So if someone was to say to you that social services only are there for support, what would you say? Did they support you?
No. The only thing they supported was trying to get my child away from me. I had postnatal depression. No one even brought it up. Surely that if they saw, I didn't know at the time I had postnatal depression, but if you saw a young new mum with postnatal depression that they caused, surely instead of trying to get my child off me, they would be telling me to go to the doctors. We think you might have postnatal depression. You should need to make a doctor's appointment. If you need the support to go with someone to go with you, we will go with you. Almost like they tried to use the postnatal depression. Well, they did. They used the postnatal depression to take my child away.
It's heartbreaking to hear everyone's stories and go through it as well. And what would you want parents out there who are going through the system to bear in mind, be careful about? What would be your warning?
Don't trust social services. Don't trust what comes out their mouth. When they say they're trying to help you, don't believe it. If they try and say, what they've done to me, because I went into a mother and baby foster placement, even though I was in a great place with support already, which I don't understand why I needed to go into a mother and baby foster placement. I always feel like it was a trap, basically, to see if I was messing up as a mother. Once they knew I wasn't, they then used my mental health and said, if they say to you, because they said to me, basically, you can leave your child here and go get help, or we're going to be taking you to court.
What happened because of that? I mean, that must have been...
And I said, what you mean? I said to you, what you mean? I said, what you mean if I go get help for my mental health? I was like, yeah, but I don't want to go get help for my mental health and me not get my daughter back. And they said to me, I can assure you, darling, but they said my name, obviously, that is not going to happen. If you just go get help for your mental health, soon as we've had the go ahead that say you're fine, you will have your child back in your care. That never happened. I went to court. I went and got my own mental health assessment, and mine just seemed to be what most parents have, postnatal depression. So then they arranged a psychiatric assessment, 6 hours long. I suddenly came back with a personality disorder.
Well, I've got some good news for you. You're not the only one who's been diagnosed with a personality disorder through the family courts. I'm also one of them. And another parent on my page is another person who's had the exact same diagnosis, and a lot of people have had that exact same diagnosis, and it seems to be a copy and paste method, or at least raises the question if it's a copy and paste method.
Because the stigma with a personality disorder, because apparently with personality disorders, I've read them that we tend to put ourselves before anyone else. I've never been like that. I've always been, even with my friends, I've always put my friends and my family first. As long as my friends are happy and my friends have got food and friends have got this, and such and such and such, as long as I got a roof over my head, I don't care if I haven't got electric, I'm on my own now.
Yeah.
That doesn't matter, I've got a roof over my head.
So you basically...
You can't stigmatise people just because one person has done that with that condition doesn't mean every other person with that condition is going to do the same.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
And I honestly do think, I just find it a bit like, whoa, like most of the people who's had their kids put up for forced adoption has suddenly got a personality disorder, almost like, so that's what they can be heavy on in court. And funny enough, that's what they were heavy on in court, because they had nothing else against me in court. I turned up to contact, my contact room was always set up for my baby, all the toys out, and because she was at the stage of crawling, all blankets on the floor because I don't know what's been on the floor. I don't know who's been on that floor. I don't know what's been done on that floor. So I always had blankets on the floor. And then all the room was set up, and I made sure it was spotless because, well, my baby deserves the best.
I agree.
It just felt like that.
Before we continue with the story, I just want to go back a little bit because we did touch on the subject of court. A lot of what I've realised that the public and a lot of family and friends don't realise is the emotional and mental impact of what goes on with the parent during the court process. And I was just wondering if you'd be able to explain a bit about your experience and about how your mental and emotional state was because of them proceedings.
I think if I wasn't keeping myself busy with how much I was doing, I would have had a breakdown. I was put onto tablets from my doctor. He didn't ask for tablets. He told me I needed to be put on tablets because they were concerned about me. I needed to be put on depression tablets. They were concerned about my well-being. But where I was so active with doing, even my solicitor turned around to me and said, who works with families on a daily basis with going through forced adoption or social services, turned around to me and said, I'm the most active mum she's had in 10 years and I still didn't get my daughter back. Even being told by my social services, or my social worker, that I'm the most active mum that she's ever seen in this place, in who she's ever worked with. I'm the most active mum she's ever worked with. I'm doing stuff that I haven't been asked to do.
Well, that should really be put down as a positive, but as a lot of us really,
none of that was brought up in court,
they don't do that.
None of that was really brought up in court. It was touched on, oh yeah, she's doing this and she's doing that, and then they suddenly went into the bad things. I'm just like, whoa, what? So why didn't you go off and get a statement from my employer? I went and got a volunteering job because they tried saying to me that I'm not going to be able to be stable. So I went and got a job a volunteering job to prove that I could be stable. I'd done anger management. I'd done meditating on a daily basis. I done one of the best parenting courses in the country, which has won awards, and I still didn't get my baby back. I was never late for contact ever. I never shown up to contact under the influence or dressed in inappropriate clothing. I always turned up to contact with bits for my daughter. Every Thursday was messy play.
Yeah,
because she loved it. Absolutely loved messy play.
Well, now you've mentioned contact, I just want to ask a question about contact quickly, because obviously, in my experience, I've had people say, well, at least you can get to see him. And I always replied with, well, no, not really, because I've got to watch someone else bring him, and every time she forgets me a bit more. And I was just wondering if you had any experiences like that, or if your experience with contact was completely different.
It was nice, don't get me wrong, I was happy to be seeing her, because I was seeing her 3 times a week for 2 hours, which seems to be a lot more. I've met other parents, and that seems to be a lot more than what other parents have got. Because I've met parents who are literally seeing their children every fortnight. But it was the times where I would get home, and I would think to myself, I shouldn't.
Take your time, don't worry.
I shouldn't be saying goodbye to my baby.
No, you should.
I should be now getting her lunch ready. I should be taking her to the park or something, or taking her to playgroup, or taking her to jungle gyms and stuff like that, taking her to see her little friends. Because it even affected, because the one friend who was involved with me, who was my best friend, her little one, her and my daughter were so close. Even when my daughter got taken off me, her daughter was asking where my daughter was. It even affected everyone in my circle of friends. They felt lost because they all bonded with my daughter.
What would you tell people, or what would you tell anyone really of what this whole experience has done to you?
I just feel like I'm here now and that's it. I'm here and just floating in existence.
And that's not a
I feel like a zombie. That's the best way to describe it. I feel like a zombie. And I just literally count down the days to my letterbox contact. I count down the days to when she's getting in touch with me. That's all it is counting down days. And thinking, oh, I wonder what she's doing right now. And like whenever, because she would have been starting school this year, and I see everyone in the shops, but
it's okay. If you need to cry, when you need to cry, it's your story. It's painful to talk about.
Everyone in the shops buying their stuff for the little ones and seeing videos of my baby starting school for the first year, and I just know she would be so excited about starting school. I know she would be. She loved books from a young age. I just know she's going to be the type of little girl that loves learning, absolutely loves learning. She is going to be one of those where I'd be getting woken up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Mummy, can I go to school now, please? It's not too early yet, but please. Or we telling her there's no school today, and she'll be getting upset because there's no school today.
I know, it's
little
hard.
Things like that. It's the little things, and knowing someone else is getting called mummy by my baby.
Words can't begin to describe the pain. You got any?
I'm never going to be the same again until she comes home.
No.
The day she got taken off me, I just felt like my soul's gone. I know I was still having contact, and yeah, you shouldn't be travelling to go see your baby for 2 hours. I had no reason to have my baby taken off me. I had all the support in the world, professionally and non-professionally. No reason at all. I wasn't addicted to drugs. I wasn't homeless. I wasn't in an abusive relationship. And choosing a man over my kids, anything like that. My daughter always came first. And yeah, I have been in an abusive relationship. And they said, what would you do if you was in an abusive relationship and you had your daughter around? I said to him, the moment he raises his voice to me in the wrong way, they'd be gone. Because I wouldn't have round my daughter. It's not just me anymore. It's me and her. And it's just, they try and twist everything you say. Everything. My daughter got a black eye while in foster care, and apparently I'm a danger to her. My daughter got a disgusting black eye, not just a little tap, a black eye that looked like two lads been fighting on the weekend, and you walk into work and they're like, oh, you've been fighting, you've got a nice purple eye there. That's the type of black eye my daughter had, and apparently a cat done it. But if that happened in a parent's care, bye-bye. But I'm asking for it to be removed. That shouldn't have been questioned. But if that happened in my care, she would have been removed on the spot. No question asked. But it happened in a foster care home, and questions are not even being raised about her safety. And then try blaming a poor defenceless cat.
Yeah, I'm assuming that you did report it.
Yes. The moment I left contact, I had my contact as usual. Even that day in contact, was not herself. She went from smiling, and there's literally a picture of her with this black eye, and she's got a blank expression on her face. She looks terrified. She looks emotionally harmed. She looks traumatised.
What does that do?
I tried to say I traumatised my daughter. No, my daughter was not traumatised. I could show you videos and videos. All she did was talk. Well, she didn't talk properly, but babble and babble all day, every day. She didn't cry. I don't remember my daughter ever crying. Even if you ask my friends and the family I lived with, my daughter only cried when she was waking up in the night for her bottle. That's the only time. And most of the time I'd be waking up dead on time. And then from 5 weeks old, she was sleeping for the night. If that's not a content baby right there, what is? She was clearly a happy child. Very
So
happy.
the reason I was pulling my face is because I don't have any answers for that, because it sounds like a happy, content baby, really. Bouncing baby.
Even in contact, there was one contact supervisor. Oh, I can't. He was amazing. When I used to walk into the room and he was sat there, him and another guy was my two favourites. And if it was him or him sat in the room, I know I was going to have a happy contact, because I know I wasn't being judged on that piece of paper. They were just literally writing down what we were doing.
Which is a bit of comfort to you, really, because there's not many people out there that do their job, really.
One tax supervisor tried accusing me of being on heroin, because I apparently so-called had pin marks on my arms. I've got like these red little blotches on my arms. I've had, my daughter got one under her eye. Was she on heroin?
No, I've got some of them red dots that you're on about. I'm all over my fingers.
And then I left, after my daughter left, and then I was outside angry, and this lady came out. She said, "You are?" I was like, "No, that guy in there has just accused me of being on heroin." She's like, "What?" I was like, "Why?" She's like, "Apparently I've got pin marks on my arm." And she pulled my arm. She goes, "Where?" It's like, "These." Like, they're not even pin marks. She goes, "Love, I'm an ex-heroin addict. They are not pin marks." Because I know what he was trying to do. I even had to say, I was like, "Look, no, not appropriate to be speaking about DRUGS around my child. I don't speak about that. You wait until my daughter's left. She is in the phase where she is copying words. I don't want her going back to her foster carers and saying that word."
No.
And he's a supervisor. He should know when it's appropriate time. I know what they were trying to do. They were trying to bind me up on purpose.
Do you mind if I ask what your child's personality was like before and after, and if it changed?
When she was with me, she was very content. She just chilled there. She was happy. She'd be on the sofa with me, and she'd just be, she was trying, very, very forward, I reckon. At 3 months old, she was rolling over.
Yeah.
5 months old, I was on the way to the toilet, and my mate Jess was talking to her, and apparently she said, "Mum." Obviously I was on my way to the bathroom, and she called me, and she just said, "Mum." I was like, "What?" She goes, "I missed that. Oh." Then she went, "Mum, mum, 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 mum."
I just want to point out quickly before we go on. Sorry?
Well, she was in
Alright.
She wasn't walking until 14, 15 months old, and for my daughter being very forward, I was quite concerned. And they didn't tell me when she did start walking. And there's pictures, I can show you pictures before and after, and she just, no.
A change that you'd notice as a parent.
Yeah, she wasn't as happy, she wasn't as outgoing, she wasn't as bubbly.
Yeah. I just want to, before we carry on, you mentioned a name before, and I just want to clarify for the recording that you have changed names of people beforehand, just in case you have slipped up. I just want to clarify that beforehand. That is actually a made-up name that's been organised beforehand.
Yeah.
Right. So, sorry for interrupting. Just wanted to make sure that that was clear, just so that if anyone's listening, that they don't think that you've just blurted out someone's name, that you have thought about it freehand.
So,
what about your goodbye contact? Can we just talk a little bit about that quickly, if it's alright?
that was an hour long.
You only had an hour to say goodbye to your daughter.
An hour to say goodbye. Well, it wasn't goodbye. It was, I said to her at the end, I said, "I'll see you soon."
Yeah. Same thing as, similar thing to what I said. I said to my baby girl, "I'll be coming for you." Obviously, there's a lot of stigma in the public at the minute. Anyone who's not had to deal with the system misunderstand a lot about what actually goes on and what is actually happening.
I think this is why when people ask where my child is, I tell them the truth, because it teaches them.
Yeah.
And
there's nothing to hide.
especially when I'm sat with people, friends with friends, and we're like, we're just sat around, and they're like, oh, what happened to, it's like, oh, do you have to get home to your baby? It's like, no, I don't, not at the moment, darling, she'll come home to me. And he's like, what do you mean? And then my friends who know me, they're like, I was like, no, you don't have to do that. And I tell them what happened. I was like, she was forced adopted. It's like, forced adopted, it was that. It's like, basically adoption without my permission. They have to drag you through the courts to do it. Because you know they know you're not going to sign that piece of paper. And then they said, so what happened? I was like, I'll tell you the truth. And he's like, oh my God, I didn't know social services were like that.
A lot of people don't. When I went to my first ever protest on the 4th of September, this week, I believe it was even, my first time actually standing up and doing something about my kids, and I ended up meeting a lot of people there that had no idea. And luckily, because I was in Germany for 6 years, I could speak German, because there was quite a few German people walking past that wanted to understand, but couldn't say, because I've got friends in Germany as well who've dealt with social services over there. They've had similar issues, but not as bad as it is here in the UK. It's not as common in Germany.
This is going to sound really bad, but if anyone's got if they're very steps away, a few steps away from having their child taken away from you, get to Ireland.
Yeah.
Ireland.
Pardon? I tried to run, but I didn't have enough time.
See, I didn't know all this until after.
That's the problem, but the problem is, obviously, if people raise awareness, awareness is raised to the public, do you think that'll help matters at all, really?
Yes, I think because of Parliament and being involved now, and obviously Parliament is the one that gives their funding. If they stop their funding so much, they're then going to have to rethink. They're going to be made to be rethinking the ways they work. Because most of these parents who have their children taken off them and put for forced adoption don't even need to have their children taken off them to begin with. You're literally taking kids off people for numbers, for government funding. Because my friend mentioned who used to work for a certain type of social services and had to leave because she didn't agree with the way they work.
Yeah.
And told me, he said, did you know if they don't take enough children off parents or put enough children up for adoption, they don't get their government funding. So people like me and you and people who are doing these interviews were literally money. How children was just a symbol above their head. A money symbol above their head. They didn't have concerns about their well-being. There was no need for any concerns about their well-being. There was no caring in that foster care. Where's the care? Where's the actual care? I met one foster carer, and that was the last one she had, who were fantastic. She even said to me, if I was rich, I'd be doing this anyway. I wouldn't need the money.
I mean, I've met some nice foster carers in the past. I've actually become quite friendly with a couple of foster carers. Hopefully I might one day be able to interview one, but obviously they've got other people that they have to protect as well. I've never said that foster carers are all bad or all evil, because a lot of them aren't. They're doing it for a really good reason. If you had a statement that you could make that's from you to everyone, to anyone who's thinking of doing these interviews and coming forward and sharing their story, what would you say to them?
Do it. Because if it stops one child being taken away from a loving home, then I've done our job. We want to do a lot more than one children, but don't be afraid. You need to get your stories out there for you and your children. You need people to know the truth of what this evil so-called social services are like. What happens behind closed doors. and I know what happens behind closed doors. Parents make one mistake and they're getting their kids taken away from them. One mistake, not even a bad mistake. Things that people who have been in that room making that decision have more than likely done themselves as a new parent. You learn from it. You learn what not to do. You try things. It's like giving your child food. They don't like it. You're not going to do it again.
I agree with you. I think you've got a very, very powerful message then. Again, this is your story. This has happened to you. That no one can tell you you're right or wrong because it happened, and it happened to you, and it's happening to people all across the country, all across the world.
It's not just social services though. It's the judges deciding this.
Yeah,
they're corrupt as well. That Parliament need to be not looking at social services. They need to be looking at the judges. The same judges who are sending paedophiles down only for 6 months. It's the same judges only sending paedophiles down for 6 months. That's not long enough. The judges need to be looked at as well. The people in CAT cases need to be looked at.
Do you think the
whole structure of social services needs to be looked at in every single department? Why does someone's family need to be ripped apart? Why does children need to be seen screaming in the street, asking their mummy, what have I done wrong? Thinking it's their fault for being taken away from them. The same thing happened to me. Being told by social services that by older children who are probably got 4 or 5, oh, you're going on holiday. You're not going on holiday. They're taking you away. For money. For money. You're ripping families apart. Decent families who love their children to the world and to the moon and back. There's even a story I bought my book saying I love you to the moon and back. For money. Basically, for money. You're tearing families apart for money. And if that makes you sleep at night, then it's people like you who clearly don't have a soul. How would you feel if someone came into your home and called you a bad parent and took your kids away? Because it doesn't happen to these things never happen to social workers. And my friend has lived next door to a social worker who smoked cannabis and stuff like this. Why wasn't her kids taken away? Because she works for them, that's why. And it would look bad in the papers.
I agree with you. I think that's the perfect place to end it, unless you've got something else you'd like to say. Obviously, we can do this more than once. We can have this conversation more than once. We can always upload more in the future if you want. I just think that's a perfect statement there to get out. It's up to you.
Yeah, that's fine.
You can say anything else if you want to say anything else. If you want to leave a message for
if I carry on saying anything else, I'm going to get angry.
No worries. Right, I'll stop the recording now.